Hello and welcome to this special edition Mali from north to south. Our trip begins in Gao, city of the north, taken back from the jihadists in January. The fighters are gone, but in town, the finger is pointed at those who collaborated and today are going about their daily lives same as before. Forgive or punish? That's just one of the questions that the citizens of this city are asking themselves. A multi-ethnic city where old rivalries have been laid bare by the crisis. We're going to be talking reconciliation. We're also going to be talking geostrategy. How long will French, African, and perhaps tomorrow UN forces be staying? Paris knows it's going to be long. It's no longer talking about a retreat, but instead a gradual drawdown. Even though, from the beginning, President François Hollande insisted his forces do not have the vocation to stay forever in this former French colony.
A hero's welcome as the French army heads north. The date is January the 18th, 1 week after the Malian president's formal call for help to stop a fresh jihadist offensive on the south.
This afternoon, the armed French forces have brought their support to the Malian units to fight against these terrorist elements.
Rebels who had started talks in Algiers suddenly make a move on January the 10th. They went for the town of Kouna, on the line that's cut the country in two for most of the previous 10 months. The central government in Bamako, chased from the north by a loose coalition of jihadists and Tuareg separatists. The Malian army's gradual return comes on the back of 4,000 French troops. Chad sends 2,400 desert-hardened forces. French fighter planes bomb the north. The towns fall fast. After initial skirmishes, the rebels mostly flee without a fight. After Kouna, scenes of wild celebrations follow in other cities.
Look at their enthusiasm. I'm really happy. With my men and the French, we liberated the airport and the town of Timbuktu.
West African forces also start to deploy in a support and logistics role. Less than 1 month in, the far northern towns of Tessalit and Kidal also fall. The French and Chadians are welcome in Kidal, but not the Malian army. To this day, the Tuareg separatist MNLA still patrols there. The hard part is chasing the jihadists from their stronghold in the EHYA Mountains, nicknamed Planet Mars for its scorching, inhospitable terrain. The Malian army's on the winning side this time, a chance for France to downplay criticism of a force largely discredited in the eyes of its own people.
Well done, you did a good job. Without the Malian army, we would never have got here.
It takes several weeks for Al-Qaeda's sanctuary to fall. Hundreds of jihadists are reportedly killed, including, according to Paris, a main leader, Abu Zaid. Weapons and child soldiers are found, but no sign of long-held French hostages believed now to still be somewhere in the wider region. Today, the drawdown of French troops is underway, but even though the handover continues with African and soon UN peacekeepers, Paris intends to still have a residual force of over 1,000 troops on the ground by year's end. The call to intervene came fast, but when it comes to leaving, that's anyone's guess.
We're in the Quartier 4, Neighborhood 4 of Gao, and we're on patrol with the French army. And as you can see, it's a foot patrol, something that wouldn't have been possible a couple of months ago. We're with Master Sergeant Thomas of the 92nd Infantry, based out of Clermont-Ferrand in the center of France. You're on foot today.
Yes.
Before it wasn't possible. What's changed?
Now the area of Gao is secure by French army. We can talk to the population without being protected by our armored vehicle, so we can discuss with the population.
You're able to talk with the population. What are you looking for?
We are looking for ammunition, UXO in military term, and information about Islamists to find them for the army.
What's it like when you speak with the people? Are they cooperating?
Yeah, they are very welcome with us.
Very welcoming. And with the Malian army, how are things with them?
We are like we work in parallel together to secure to protect the population. We work in cooperation.
All right. So you're saying that now it's safer. Does that mean your presence is no longer needed at this point?
I don't say that we are here, it's secure. We don't know what happens if we are not here. We help the Malian army to develop its capacity to secure its own territory. We are waiting. The MISMA and the Malian army are capable to secure its own territory.
The Malian army? It's returning home from patrol. Morale is definitely back on the uptick. But what happens when foreign forces draw down? Major Colonel Didier DACKO, head of operations in Gao.
We are ready to work on our own at this point already. Even if the French forces or the Malian or the MISMA forces leave today, we have the obligation to work for the government of Mali. We are
You'd have to make do if the French and the other foreign forces leave. You're going to have to step in anyways.
We have to step in anyway. We don't have the choice. So whatever is the situation, we have to stay here. We have to take this situation and we have to work on it. And also there is one point. The enemy is no longer as big as it used to be in the past months, or let's say in the past weeks. So really the situation has drastically changed. I mean, the situation on the side of the enemy. So I don't really think that it's going to be a very big deal for the Malian army to deal with the rest of the situation. Anyway.
Everywhere in Mali, because there are places, most notably in the far north, where your troops are not always welcome.
Yeah, we know that our troops are not welcome there at the present time, but we are going to be there. There's no way doing that. This is any place in this country which is the part of the Malian territory, the Malian armed forces are going to be there. There's no way. But that will take some political steps before we go.
We're now in Gao on Independence Square, which under the occupation of the north had been renamed Sharia Square. Yes, it's here where sometimes they took people to be whipped and even to have their hands cut. Today, as you can see, well, life's back to normal. It's basketball practice, boys and girls together playing. And we're with Jaouja Babi, who's one of the players. And at one point, under the occupation of the city by the jihadists, you received 10 lashes at City Hall, and they threatened even to bring you back here.
To first send me to prison, then to bring me here to kill me. And if they don't kill me, they kill my mother or a member of my family. It was really harsh. I never experienced anything like that, and I never thought Muslims would dare to do such a thing. And if you ask me, I say those aren't Muslims. They're just people who want to win over the place. Nothing else.
So this is sweet revenge. This was Sharia Square, and now here you are playing basketball.
That's right.
Best of luck to you, Jaouja Babi, both with the basketball and with your studies. As you can see, life getting back to normal, but it is a relative concept. Many people have still not returned. The banks have not reopened. That's important. It means that people aren't getting their remittances. That's wire transfers from relatives abroad. It also means that civil servants have not returned to the city for the most part because, well, they can't get their salaries here. More generally, though, there's the feeling that Gao and its surroundings are not quite yet safe. We're sitting in the courtyard of the police station, the abandoned police station of Gao, in the company of the mayor, Sadouash Diallo. Thank you for having us. Thank you as well to OUSMANE DADDA MAIGA, who is the spokesperson for all the various youth movements of the city of Gao. This police station bears the hallmarks of what was the aftershock of the fight with the jihadists. They'd been chased from the city, but in February, a pocket of them held at bay for the entire day the Malian army. And the question begs, Mr. Mayor, how long will French forces have to stay?
I don't think France should intervene rapidly, liberate us, and then go home. If France liberates us, then France should stay until we have an army worthy of its name that can replace the French army.
It's a tough one. We're talking about international terrorism. We were occupied for 10 months, first by the MNLA, then Ansar Dine. Both Malian movements, then these movements were bolstered by the Mujao, Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. These movements had plenty of time to settle roots here. They had collaborators, they made contacts, so it's complicated. We think France should stay as long as needed, as long as it takes to boot out the last terrorist from our land.
Is it a question of months, years, decades?
I think it'll be the work of many years. 2 decades, because it can't be fixed in a day or two. We saw on January 26th when we were liberated. We shouted, we cheered, we thought it was over. But then afterwards, despite the French presence, despite the presence of the African forces of MISMA, despite the presence of the Malian army, we witnessed several infiltrations by jihadists here inside the city. So we think France should continue its work to help us root out, as I said, the last terrorist from our land.
The jihadists are gone, but has their ideology been defeated?
Naturally, because they had time. They had time, 10 months, 11 months, to terrorize the population. They had time. But even before the conflict, they had accomplices, because when they arrived here, they were applauded by a certain number of people. We had the feeling that there had been a long process. Years ago, they started placing their lobbyists here, and there's an Islamist sect called the Wahhabis that settled in the northern part of Mali 25 years ago. We realized that they were their agents. So they had their lobby here, which were the Islamists. So they turned to the young students of these sects, and it was they, Malian citizens, and they're still here.
OUSMANE DADDA, many of those militants are young. Where have they gone? And where, for example, are the women they married?
The last we heard was that some of the women were here.
And do you accept them, or are they ostracized?
Well, let's not forget that they are our sisters. In some cases, these were forced marriages. In some cases, they were forced to marry the jihadists. For sure, there are cases where they married of their own free will. But what can you do? We're forced to make do with it in the name of reconciliation.
So in other words, it's a question of forgiving those women. Forgiveness, a big issue. So is reconciliation. It's not just about ideology. Gao is a city where different peoples have lived together for centuries. And after all that's happened, the question is, can they get along once again? It's a report by Willy Bracciano.
Ben Ahmed Majoub's chosen to stay in Gao. Over the course of a year, the town was first held by the MNLA, then by Islamist groups Mujao and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Many Arabs and Tuaregs have now fled, accused by locals of supporting jihad.
You see that house there? It belongs to Arabs, but they're not there. This one also belongs to Arabs. The big house next to it is also an Arab home. None of them are there anymore. They all fear for their lives.
Majoub refused to collaborate with Islamists. The stance earned him the respect of fellow residents. The 55-year-old businessman was born in Gao. His neighbours belonged to all ethnic groups. During the occupation, black Malians suffered the harshest treatment. Today, they demand that justice be done.
There are even black-skinned people who join Mujao. But we cannot forgive those people. We cannot forgive them. We're simply going to hand them over to the authorities.
This man too seeks redress. In December last year, Islamists accused him of theft and cut off his hand. The father of 3 children, Issa Al-Zoum, is now known as one of the 4 amputees of Gao.
Mete out justice for the people who cut off my hand? I would slaughter all of them. Even if they are sentenced to life in prison, that's not enough. Should I forgive people who've done this to me? I cannot forgive them.
Forgiveness may be long in coming for the Tuareg community. These descendants of desert nomads have returned. Most are too scared to come back. But they insist not all Tuaregs have blood on their hands.
Time is running out. We need reconciliation. We need to live in harmony. We need to turn back the clock. People are suffering. The refugees are suffering.
Life has returned to the streets of Gao since its liberation 3 months ago. Authorities say that only 10,000 of the city's 78,000 inhabitants are yet to come home. After nightfall, local radio stations sound their appeal to former residents.
Tu as besoin de paix. Tes amis, ta maman, ton papa, ta sœur, ton frère, tout le monde en a besoin.
This mother returned from Niger 2 months ago to find her house ransacked. Still, MAIMOUNA prefers to see her 9 children grow up here in their hometown.
We've come back because life is better for us here. We will stay in our house. We won't stay with others. We came back because the military came to free us and protect us.
MAIMOUNA's back home and back to work. But she says that forgiveness and reconciliation will have to wait.
As you can see in that report, reconciliation between Northerners is no easy feat. But there's another aspect, reunification with the rest of the country. On that point, the people here feel as though the authorities in Bamako are far from being in any fit state for a proper handover. Stay with us because in part 2, we're going to be going to the Malian capital. We'll be back in just a few minutes right here on France 24.